Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
そして、君の予言通り、この村に毎年、たたりを語る開始事件が起こったと聞いた。君が私に教えてくれたことは、すべて事実だった。そして君は最後に、自分は今年殺されると言っていた。
赤坂。
確かに、私にとって妻と娘は何よりも大切なものだ。だが、それは君がいてくれたからこそ、失わずに済んだものなんだ。なのに、二人を助けてくれた君が不幸に遭うなんて、私は絶対に認めない。だから、私が今手にしているこの時間と、この力。
赤坂。
本当に長いこと忘れていた気がする。でも、ようやく思い出したよ。長いこと、待たせてすまなかったね。
赤坂。富武、東京の動きは今、どうなっていますか？
どうって？いや、別におかしなこともなく、通常通りだけど。
ちょっとだけ彼の話に出ていたのですが、東京から流入している入江機関への資金の流れに疑問を持ったそうなのです。この明細について一度確認してもらいたいのです。
そら、まあ数日中にでも可能だけど、一体どうして？
僕たちへの給付が高野と入江に流れてるそうなのです。最近の支払い額が減っていたので、おかしいと思っていたのですよ。
そんなバカな。
Tomitake unpleasantly frowned when he heard that. One of Tomitake's responsibilities is to oversee how the funds are being used. But he was probably leaving them mostly alone thanks to their cordial relationship. It wasn't clear if he felt betrayed or couldn't believe it, but he was clearly very confused.
わかった。とにかく本当だったら大変だ。調べてみるよ。
富武、一つお願いなのです。
Tomitake had cut off the conversation and was about to head out, so I couldn't help but call out to stop him. And when he dubiously tilted his head upon hearing me say request, I held my hands together and continued.
お願いなのです。この話は入江と高野には秘密にしておいてもらいたいのですよ。
どうして？
僕たちは入江と高野にとてもよくしてもらっているのです。まだ信じられないし、ひょっとしたらただの勘違いかもしれません。だからこんなことで二人に嫌な思いをさせたくないのです。
わかった。確かにお金の勘違いでギスギスした雰囲気になるのは嫌だからね。安心して。リカちゃんのそれが判明したら真っ先に知らせるよ。
ありがとうなのです。よろしくお願いしますのです。
I feel guilty. It's so easy to pass on animosity by making someone suspect betrayal. And that's what Tomitake is feeling right now.
富武、入江、嘘をついてごめんなさいなのです。
We're lying for the greater good! I'm sure they'll understand. Eventually. Portraying a nice, selfless guy like Irie as some greedy miser really does make my heart ache. But I can't dwell on how it looks. Tomitake will die on the night of Watanagashi unless he learns about his life-threatening situation soon. I looked up at the sky. A beautiful full moon. The shrine grounds and the dark sky were illuminated by the dim light, bathing the surrounding area in a mysterious atmosphere. Will I be able to see a moon this beautiful in the future? And Hanyu. Honestly, where did that girl disappear to? The moon wasn't going to answer that. I lingered there for a while, leaning back against the offering box and pouring the thoughts in my heart toward the sky. Disturbing movements were happening within Tokyo. Movements that, by all rights, should never be happening in Hinamizawa. And Mio Takano, when he learned the truth, he thought it was a mistake at first. Apparently, Takano-san had chosen to walk down the road to destruction. Even thinking about it, strictly from common sense, it couldn't be described as anything but treason. However, he changed his perspective and gave it another thought. What if the higher-ups in Tokyo were using this act of defiance as part of a power struggle? And what if Takano-san is aware of that and receiving orders from one of those higher-ups? There's a connection. Everything that seems strange at first fits together nicely once all the puzzle pieces are assembled. And the result of that is a catastrophe that will wipe out all of Hinamizawa. It's a ritual dedicated to the magnificent god, Mio Takano.
私を殺すできるかしら、二郎さん。
Her voice lingered in his ears, echoing in the back of his mind as he ran through the dark, quiet mountain path.
いよいよなの。もうじきなの。私のずっと見続けてきた夢が叶う日がもうすぐやってくるの。
夢だって。
ええ、二郎さんには何度か話したことがなかったかしら。神と等しき力を手に入れ、神と同格の存在となってこの世に君臨し、そして愚かしくも無力な人間たちに神の罰を下す。素敵でしょう。そしてそれはもうすぐ実現する。私の手によってね。
I couldn't keep up with Takano-san's enrapturing story, so I simply stared vacantly. But I suddenly came to my senses when I realized the story had derailed, and I interrupted to express my thoughts.
君のやろうとしていることは自己欺瞞と自己陶酔の塊だ。僕は管理の立場としてそれを容認するわけにはいかない。だから頼む。今すぐ思い直して計画を中止してほしい。
管理の立場ならあなた自身はどうなのかしら。
え？まさか高野さん。
ねえ二郎さん、私はね、あなたのことがとても好き。黙って協力してくれたら報酬はもちろん思いのまま。もしあなたが望むなら私のすべて、そして残る時間を、それだけはあなたにだけ私のことを話したように。だから時間はかけてもいい。考えてくれないかしら。
残念だけど返事は一つだ。君たちを、君を見逃すわけにはいかない。
そう、やっぱりね。残念だわ。本当に残念。
Escape may no longer be possible. In which case...
せめてリカちゃんには。
That was all I can think about as I ran through the hilly countryside, desperately searching for a way out. My frantically moving legs suddenly came to a halt as my thoughts turned to despair, because the scene spread out before my eyes was a swamp. Onigufuji Swamp?
バッチキュスか。
諦めないで。気持ちが折れたらそこでおしまいよ。
このままここにいたって何もできないぜ。一旦戻って赤坂さんたちに相談しよう。それでいいかな、リカちゃん。
わかりましたのです。ここは一時撤退なのですよ。
As she said that, Rika-chan rose to her feet with a reluctant look on her face. But just then... Uh-oh. That moment. It happened so fast that neither Rika-chan nor I could even process it. We couldn't understand what was going on. But the ground beneath our feet crumbled and fell. Rika-chan's small body flew into the air and seemed to be swallowed by the darkness.
もう戻れないか。
大丈夫。大変だ。
どうかしたんね。青い顔して。なんか見つかった？
サンサには内密で、ウグイスからの報告で R がフルでリカが富武の落ちた沼に落ちたようだ。現在も捜索中だが、こちらの行方も発見できず、急ぎどう対応すべきかの命令をこうと言ってきてるぞ。
And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So, let's figure out what actually happened to Rika now, shall we? And Tomitake, for that matter, if at all possible.
Rika-chan!
You got your ventriloquist act going on strong, Keiichi, because I don't see your mouth flapping, even though you're yelling. I did my best to come to my senses as an unforeseen development appeared right before my eyes. Rika-chan just fell into the swamp? I carefully checked my footing to make sure I wouldn't fall as well, then clung to the tree right next to me and looked down with the aid of my flashlight. I could tell by the slight reflection on the surface of the water this was rather high up. Even if she landed in the water, there's no way a child falling from up here would come out unscathed.
Rika-chan!
I hurried down the path leading down the mountain slope. I had to consider the possibility that I'd run into enemies who were chasing Tomitake-san. But Rika-chan's safety was far more important. I ran. I just kept running. A stench rose up from the depths of my throat as I exhaled, and my arms and legs were already covered in cuts from all the stones and branches I brushed against along the way. But my legs didn't stop. There was no way I could. I watched the ground at my feet with a flashlight and scraped through the forested area that could no longer be called a path, while some of my worst thoughts ran through my head. What if something really did happen to Rika-chan? What if I lost the one and only thing I swore to protect? Even after all our strong feelings, wishes, and constant effort to open a path to a happy future, it's all for nothing? We vowed to overcome any challenges and fight the almighty enemies awaiting us. We swore we'd grab a hold of that happiness together. So even if one of us is missing, if Rika-chan isn't there, then it's not a happy future at all. Despite that, I couldn't accept that she could just fall like this. It was utterly unbelievable. So, God, if you really are there, please hear my request. Please let Rika-chan be safe. I don't mind giving my life in exchange. Please, God, please give Rika-chan back to us. Before long, I wasn't quite sure where I ran to get here, but somehow I managed to reach the swamp, and I slowly inched closer. the surrounding area did indeed show signs of other people nearby. If I didn't know that Tomitake-sen was being chased, I probably would have disregarded it, thinking that it was just an animal or something. Of course, I concealed my breathing. If they decide to change targets, they might capture me to silence me. But this is no place to be saying that. I'll never take a step outside of this swamp until I confirm that Rika-chan is safe. Then I aimed my flashlight left and right, carefully examining anything floating on the water's surface.
Rika-chan! Rika-chan! 大丈夫か? 頼む。返事をしてくれ!
The surrounding area was enveloped in tranquil silence. I couldn't even hear the faintest sound, so I focused all my attention into my ears. But there was no reply, and I couldn't see any shadows or silhouettes on the surface of the faintly shining water. My whole body was fiercely shaking, trembling with fear and despair. Hey, that can't be true. Is this truly the end? No chance in hell. No way. It can't be. Nevertheless, nothing will ever happen if I just linger here. I should make every possible effort, even if it may ultimately be all for naught. Right? Right! As I told myself that, I came to a decision. For now, it would be best to gather additional manpower to search the swamp. So I rushed down the mountain path again. I'm certain that the shack where Rika-chan and Sadako live is close to here. The festival is already over, so there's no point in heading back to the shrine. I should call Mion at the Sonozaki house and call the village elders. I need to notify them right away. I kept on running, and my legs felt heavy. My heart was pulsing so intensely that I felt like it was about to fly out of my chest. Just then... You tripped on a branch, didn't you? Maybe it was because of my painfully heavy breathing, but my field of view got all distorted, and I could no longer sense the ground at my feet. I lost my balance and got thrown forward. I couldn't grab hold of anything, so I tumbled down the slope. Nevertheless, I tried to put my feet down and reached both my hands out toward the trunk of a tree in hopes of grabbing on. The shock of that impact ran through my entire body, but somehow I successfully escaped my tumbling predicament. I ignored the pain, and my breathing grew more relieved. As I raised my head to look down the hill. Up ahead, a small shack with a rusted roof was clearly visible in the moonlight. I was gasping for breath, but I'd finally reached the shack. This is where Rika-chan and Sadako live. A small shack on the outskirts of the Furuji Shrine grounds. And there's a phone here, so I should be able to get in touch with people faster than if I had gone directly to Mion's place. Anyway, I need to contact Mion and the mayor as soon as possible, so we can search the swamp together. That's all that matters. I fought off the exhaustion and fatigue to maintain consciousness. As I opened the front door, went up the stairs, and entered the room. But just then... Just then, I saw something unbelievable. Somehow, it was the person I was desperately searching for until just a moment ago. It was Rika-chan. How the hell did you get here before me? She got up from the futon in the middle of the room, and had a completely vacant look on her face.
リカちゃん、本当にリカちゃんなんだよな。よかった、よかった、無事だったんだな、リカちゃん。
My astonishment gradually transformed into relief, and then to joy. Without even thinking, I ran over to Rika-chan and embraced her little body. Huh? Her body is so warm. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Her body would be warm. Unless she's dead. And more importantly, she's not wet at all?
Keiichi, 苦しいのです。
ごめん。
I realized I had gotten carried away in my excitement and was holding her too tight, so I apologized while backing off. Rika-chan's body was illuminated by the moonlight entering the room. There were no scratches on her arms, and her clothes weren't dirty at all. For a moment, I thought that maybe she had changed her clothes. But those are definitely the same clothes she was wearing earlier. I examined her once more. Her clothes were muddy, her arms and legs were covered in cuts, and her body was drenched in a mix of dirt, sand, and sweat. Or at least that should have been the case. And yet, her clothes and skin didn't look all that dirty, and the countless bloody scratches that were there earlier had suddenly vanished. What the hell? There wasn't a speck of dirt. It was like Rika-chan was home the whole time. What on earth is going on here?
リカちゃん、本当にリカちゃんなんだよな。
他の誰かに見えるのですか?
And of course, it wasn't just her appearance, but also her manner of speaking. This is the Rika-chan I knew so well.
でも、どうして？さっきまで俺たち山道を走って、そして。
確かに僕はあなたと一緒に富竹を追って山に入ったのです。そこで僕は。
Suddenly, Rika-chan was craning her neck like she was trying to recall a distant memory, but in the next moment her face twisted like she was in pain, and she crouched down while cleaning her head. When I saw that, I thought maybe she had hit her head when she fell down the cliff, so I rushed to her side.
どうしたリカちゃん、やっぱりどこが痛むのか。
違う、急に頭の中がぐちゃぐちゃになって。
Hanyu had something to do with this, didn't she? Come out and confess!
リカちゃん、待ってろ、すぐ監督に連絡を。
大丈夫なのです。
As I got up to call the clinic, Rika-chan grabbed my arm and held it tight, while panting with an agonized look on her face. Then,
もう落ち着きましたのですよ。
リカちゃん。
She was sweating so hard that her bangs stuck to her little forehead. But Rika-chan brought her breathing under control and gave me a reassuring smile.
本当に大丈夫か？一応監督に見てもらった方が。
平気です。ありがとうなのですよ、ケイイチ。
なんだ？
After calling out my name, Rika-chan looked like she had thought of something and turned her gaze down while grabbing at the clothes on her chest. The silence continued for a while longer. And then, when I noticed a tear-filled look in her eyes, I was just about to open my mouth and ask her why. But at that moment...
もし、僕が、あなたは、 僕の味方でいてくれますか？
いや、リカちゃん、何を言って。
答えてください、ケイイチ。僕はあなたたちの仲間の一人でいてもいいのですか？
当たり前じゃないか。
Even though I was still confused, I answered her confidently.
前にも言っただろ。レナにミオンにシオン、サトコにリカちゃん。みんな俺の大切な仲間だ。そしてみんなも絶対リカちゃんのことをそう思っている。リカちゃんがレナやサトコの幸せを願ったようにさ。
ケイイチ、
本当に無事でよかったよ。リカちゃんにもしものことがあったら、俺はどんなに悔やんでも悔やみきれなかった。どうやって無事だったのかは分かんないけど、神様に祈りが通じたのかもな。
そうですか。その思いがここに引き戻してくれたのかもしれないのです。
それって。
Ring ring. Riki-chan and I both jumped when we suddenly heard a high-pitched ringing sound. It was coming from the phone right beside me.
こんな時間に誰だ？
ケイイチ。
It was hard to imagine who it might be, so Riki-chan and I stood there for a while, wondering if we should answer. I wonder if it's Tomitake. Still, I felt suspicious as the sound continued to fill the air. So we nodded at one another. Then I held the hand out to pick up the receiver and slowly moved it toward my ear.
もしもし。
赤坂です。
Never mind.
君は？
あ、俺前原圭一です。リカちゃん。
As soon as I heard it was Akasaka-san, I handed the phone over to Riki-chan. And then I leaned my ear in closer so I could hear what he had to say.
変わりました。もしもしなのです。どうしましたか？
秘匿捜査指定が発令される前に、越権行為だけど、君たちには報告しておく。たった今、変死体が発見された。町へと続く舗装道路の一角だ。
It's Tomitake, isn't it? I felt all the blood in my body drain out in an instant, and a chill coursed through my back. Riki-chan had predicted a murder just a little while ago. On the night of Watanagashi, a man will be killed in an inexplicable way, and a woman's burned corpse will be discovered in the mountains of a neighboring prefecture. And the man's name was... Riki-chan's face turned pale, and her lips trembled as she tightened her grip on the receiver. I decided to grab the phone on Riki-chan's behalf and mustered the willpower to ask Akasaka-san for more information.
その死体はどんな殺され方ですか？死因は？
死因は外傷性ショック死。喉をガリガリとかきむしって、そこからの出血多量で絶命している。死後硬直の調査はまだこれからだが、おそらく殺されてまだ間もないだろう。
それで。
Clawing at his throat, my voice began to tremble. Calm down, calm down, calm down.
殺されたのは誰ですか？
Riki-chan gasped right beside me. She closed her eyes and put her hands together like she was praying for a miracle, while frantically waiting for his answer.
被害者の名前は？
Cold sweat dribbled down my back. It was only for a few seconds. But for us, it felt like it went on for hours.
北条、鉄平。
Eh? I suddenly lost all sensation in my arms. Riki-chan collapsed to the ground the moment she heard that name.
リカちゃん！
I rushed over and held a hand out to her, but Riki-chan just shook her head and muttered, "I'm all right." At any rate, it seems like that Tomitake-san wasn't the victim. It was Teppei Houjou. But what did that mean?
赤坂さん、
Seems to me that it means that our dear friend Tomitake is indeed still alive. What about Tomitake? I was about to ask that, but Rika-chan held up her little hand to stop me. When I turned to face her, Rika-chan silently pointed at her ear. Maybe she's worried about wiretapping? I tensed up. From now on, a single misspoken statement could prove fatal. The battle has already begun. Suddenly, Akasaka-san began to speak up in a tone that unraveled the tension.
そろそろ宿に戻らないといけないんだけど、最後に聡子ちゃんの様子を見てから帰ろうと思う。彼女の具合はどうかな？
いや。
Wouldn't it be better to check with the clinic directly instead of asking us about that? I was about to say that, but I swallowed my words. Because I realized that Akasaka-san was trying to convey some other message. Maybe to check up on her?
実は着替えてから診療所に行こうと思って、今から向かうところなんですよ。もしよかったら、ついでにご挨拶させてもらえませんか？
ああ、それはぜひとも。電話でさよならよりも、会ってちゃんと話しておきたいからね。じゃ、待ってるから。
And after saying that, Akasaka-san hung up the phone. Just as I thought, he seemed more the type that would come here directly rather than having kids walking around at this hour of the night.
リカちゃん、赤坂さん宿に帰るんだって。挨拶に行くだろ。
言わずもがななのです。ね。
Rika-chan had a tense look on her face as she gave me a firm nod. Then we hopped on our bikes and headed to the Irie Clinic. Akasaka-san was waiting for us near the entrance of the clinic.
悪いね。夜遅くに。
いえ。ちょうど寝る前に聡子の様子を見に行こうと思ってましたから。
それはよかった。ケイチ君、将来は公安なんてどうだい？君ならきっと向いていると思うよ。
We really shouldn't. Keiichi would be too powerful. Akasaka-san gave me a pat on the shoulder as he said that. He was probably praising me for what I said on the phone earlier. But Rika-chan would be in danger if she wasn't here.
そうなのです。
He wasn't here.
考えていることを口に出す癖が治らないうちは、赤坂レベルに到達するのも難しいのですよ。
なるほどね。
Rika-chan and Akasaka-san were both looking at me in awe. It seemed they were speaking about me without me even realizing it. Whoops.
ところで赤坂、奥さんたちの方は大丈夫なのですか？
ああ、大丈夫だよ。みゆきは疲れて眠ってしまったが、妻には事情をかいつまんで話しておいた。愛知の方から信頼できる刑事さんが警護役のために駆けつけてくれたし。
ありがとうございます、赤坂さん。
He was willing to give up his entire family vacation to support Rika-chan. So I was really thankful for his kindness.
むしろ、リカちゃん、君の方こそ大丈夫かい？さっき入江先生から熱を出して寝込んでいるって聞いたんだけど。
僕はお熱なんて出していませんですよ。全然平気なのです。ニパー。
うん。確かに元気そうに見えるね。でも無理はしないでくれよ。
了解なのです。
I wonder about that. Maybe it's just my imagination, but there's a strange feeling nagging at my heart. Then we entered the clinic. The coach was there dressed in plain clothes. And Ooshi-san was there too for some reason. Ooshi, my boy! My man, my chum!
こんな夜更けに子供二人で出歩いてはいけませんな。
Bike riding!
ひょっとして人目を忍ぶ道ならぬ恋ってやつですか？
なんでそうなるんですか。聡子のお見舞いに決まってるでしょ。
僕にも選ぶ権利はあるのですよ。
Rika-chan, why are you playing along with him? Are you trying to knock me down? More like knock you up.
まあ確かにリカさんはもう心配ないようですね。やっぱり過労からの一時的な発熱だったんでしょうな。
Rika-chan looked back at me as she heard that, and dubiously tilted her head. Was Rika-chan sleeping with a fever? As far as I know, that shouldn't be the case. As she herself seemed confused as she listened to Akasaka-san and Ooshi-san's concerns. What did that mean?
ただ今晩に限っては少々自重をお願いしたいところです。何せ今宵は綿流しの番なんですからな。古出家のご当主様が若い男とお手でつないでどこかへ失踪なんてことになったらシャレにもなりませんよ。
Even while joking, Ooshi-san was still trying to give us a careful warning. He must have just finished examining the crime scene, so there was a grim, intense look in his eyes. Then, Akasaka-san went out ahead like he was going to protect us, and spoke up.
ご心配なく、私がこの後ちゃんと送りますから。それに、呼んだのは私ですよ。
ほう。なんでまたこんな時間にここに？
いえ、帰る前に挨拶だけでもと思いましてね。
The smile suddenly vanished from Akasaka-san's face as he said that, and he quietly nodded his head. When Ooshi-san saw that, he furrowed his brow and very quietly whispered, "Understood," while nodding back. We being snooped on right now or something? Seeming to find something uncanny about the exchange, the coach awkwardly got up from his seat.
そろそろ私は戻ってもよろしいでしょうか。
Hey, coach!
リカさんと前原さんももう遅いですから、面会は手短にお願いしますね。特にリカさんは病み上がりなんですから、あまり無理はなさらずに。
おや、どちらに？
自宅に決まっているじゃないですか。もう検視に関しての協力は終わりましたので、帰って休ませていただきます。
入江先生、わざわざ時間外にお呼び立てして申し訳ありませんがね。少々この後もお時間を都合していただけますでしょうか。
どういうことです？
まあ今晩の先生の行動内容とか外車との関係とかいろいろお聞きしておきたいと思いましてね。
Relationship? With Teppei? Doc, I had no idea your tastes in this world have gone to that level of shit. That was wrong of you, man. Have some standards.
私を疑っているんですか？
Rather than act surprised, the coach furrowed his brow and made no effort to hide his unpleasant mood. Rika-chan walked up to him in that state, then grabbed his hand and looked up at him with a smile, seemingly trying to relieve him.
入江がそんな人でないことくらい僕が一番知っているのです。だから僕たちと同じように尋問を受けましょうなのです。
どういうことなんですか？
Coach seemed puzzled as he gazed at Rika-chan, and then at Ooshi-san and Akasaka-san, and finally at me, studying our faces with a dubious expression. Well, we certainly are an unusual group.
とりあえず診察室に。なあ、その前に赤坂さん、よろしくお願いしますね。
With a nod, Akasaka-san entered the exam room and closed the door. Then, a little while later, I could see his face through a gap in the door giving us a thumbs up, saying, "Please come inside." Checking for wires.
それじゃあ前原さんもリカさんも中へどうぞ。先生もお願いしますね。
あなたたちは。
とりあえず中に入ってくださいなのです。この先入江の力が絶対に必要なのですよ。
After saying that, Rika-chan gave the coach a push on the back while heading to the exam room. He was still reluctant, but he did follow along after that push. The unlit exam room was an eerie sight in the dead of night. The smell of chemicals or some sort of essence struck my nose. The uniquely cold and inorganic color of the linoleum floor dimly reflected the moonlight. I could see Sadako lying on the bed in the back of the room, still unconscious. We didn't ask anything, but we all gathered around a desk a short distance away, and the coach pulled out his chair to sit down.
それで何から始めるんですか？ちなみに今晩の私のアリバイは。
ああ、すみませんね。実はそれ一番どうでもいいことなんですよ。
は？
Ooshi put both his hands on the coach's shoulders from behind and laughed. Then he raised his head and nodded to Akasaka-san.
実はさっき聞いた話なんですが、山中で焼死体が見つかったそうです。ドラム缶の中でガソリンで焼かれて黒焦げになった。
I see Takano's already gone to work on her cover story. Or cover corpse, or whatever you want to call it.
若い女性のね。
それが何か？
身元はまだ確認中ですが、ほぼ間違いなくその被害者は高野美代です。
まさか。
驚くのはまだ早いですよ。ここに来るまでに宿泊先のホテルに確認したのですが、どうやら富武二郎さん、今行方不明だそうですね。
そんな。
この情報は警察内の秘匿になるでしょうが、今日中に村の上の連中やあなたのお仲間にも情報が行き渡るものかと思います。お二人とも今年の綿流しのたたりを受けて殺されてしまったってね。
The coach continued to look stunned. His lips were quivering and his eyes were open wide. It wasn't that he didn't understand what the two of them were saying. It was that he couldn't believe it.
さて、ここから先は私たちよりもリカさんからお話しいただいた方がいいですかね。どうですか、リカさん。
赤坂？
Rika-chan glanced over at Akasaka-san like she wanted him to clarify something first. Akasaka-san gave her a slow, powerful nod to let her know it was all right.
すまない。説明が不足していたね。私はここに来るときに5年前の話を彼にしたんだ。それがあったからこそ、鉄平の一件、そして富武さんの失踪についての情報が迅速に入手できた。信用してくれて問題ないと思う。
赤坂さんからお話は伺っておりますよ。まあ口頭無形というか、にわかには信じがたい内容ではありましたが、今晩の事件があった以上はどうやら信じざるを得ないようですね。
それに大石さんが今後協力してくれるかどうかはともかく、この人はずっとたたりにまつわる事件を追ってきた。だから彼にはできれば可能な限り話しておきたいし、聞くだけの資格があると思う。どうだろうか。
そうですね。ちょうどいい機会かもしれないのです。
なんだかやばい話のようですね。
Massive understatement.
私、もうここでおいとました方がよろしいでしょうか。確かに赤坂さんの話をちらっと聞いただけでも危険な匂いがプンプン漂ってきてましたからね。
But you like a little bit of danger, don't you?
多分あなたも興味を持つと思いますのです。 4年前の現場監督惨殺事件から続くたたりの真実知り
Ushi-san's expression completely changed as soon as he heard that. His mouth remained expressionless, like he was trying to conceal it, but there was a sharp look in his eyes that wasn't there a moment ago.
Rika-san.
The coach, on the other hand, turned toward Rika-chan with a distraught look on his face. When Rika-chan saw that, she barely smiled and slowly shook her head.
もう黙っていても無駄なのですよ。この赤坂は警視庁の公安の人間です。そしてこのひなみ沢に関してもつい最近までかなり深いところまで調べていたそうなのです。入江機関のことももちろん。
Even in the dark, I could see the coach's face turn pale as soon as he heard that.
あなたは？
自己紹介します。私は赤坂守。警視庁公安部の資料室第7室に勤めています。
ちなみに東京の公安部資料室は確か内調別室並みの極秘部門ですよ。秘密警察の批判もあるような極秘の強行捜査部隊でしたっけ？
It would be pretty ridiculous for a secret department to have the word secret in their name. A real secret department would mislead the public with a completely innocuous name. And that goes for Akasaka-san's department as well. Even though they were named after the reference room, they weren't mere librarians managing the records in the room.
入江所長さんでしたね。5年ほど前、私が誘拐犯たちとの乱闘で怪我をした時、お世話になりました。あの時は丁寧な治療を本当にありがとうございました。
あの時の。いえ、自分の仕事をしたまでですから。
そしてあなたには入江診療所の他に入江機関の所長という別の肩書きもある。そうですね。
それは
ご心配なく。私はあなたを調査に来たのでも捕まえに来たのでもありません。ただ私はこのリカちゃんと5年前に約束したんです。彼女の身が危機に陥った時は必ず助けに行くって。それだけのことです。信じてください。
危機ってどういうことですか？
そのままの意味です。リカちゃんの命が狙われている。だから私は彼女を守るためにここにやってきたのです。
Akasaka-san faintly smiled and put a hand on Rika-chan's shoulder beside him. Then Rika-chan decided to take a step toward the coach and speak up.
入江、妙な話をしますけど、ふざけないで聞いてほしいのです。とてもとても真剣な話なのです。
何ですか？
まず入江、hinamizawa症候群についてあなたの口から話してほしいのです。
リカさん。
Tomitakeが消され、高野が姿を消しました。おそらくあなたが考えているよりも事態は残酷な方向へと進行していますのです。そしてこのまま放置すればおそらく、いえ、間違いなく。
なぜ私が？
では反対に聞きますが、もしTomitakeが何らかの形で事件に巻き込まれいなくなったとしたら、そしてレベル5を発症して死んだ人間が地元の警察に確保されたとしたら、その責任は誰に行きますか？
The coach seemed startled as he stared at Rika-chan, then at Akasaka-san and me standing behind her, and then at Ooshi-san behind all of us. But he was further surprised to see that none of them showed any change in their expressions, so he turned back toward Rika-chan and spoke up.
まさか東京のことについてもこの人たちは知っているんですか？
私はこれでも公安ですから。東京という名称はリカちゃんから聞きましたが、存在についてはそれなりに把握していました。大石さんは私から、この前原君はリカちゃんから話を聞いたようですね。
The coach drooped his shoulders with no strength left in them. While gazing at him from above, Rika-chan then grasped both his hands and spoke.
入江、僕は入江に死んでもらいたくないのです。入江はこれまで聡子のために必死に頑張ってくれていました。その感謝を忘れたことはありませんし、きっとこの先僕が成長してからも忘れるつもりはないのです。もう一度言います。あなたはこのままだと殺されます。この綿流しの夜に富武と高野がいなくなり、しかも鉄平はレベル5症状を突然発症して死んだ。これをあなたは本当に偶然と思っているのですか？
リカさん。
The coach slightly raised his head to look up at Rika-chan and seemed to finally accept what she was telling him. Then he gave her a faint smile and a vague nod, then looked at the rest of us and spoke.
わかりました。お話しします。私の話せる限りのことを。
Here we go. The coach began to relax and spoke in a calm tone, detailing the existence of an endemic disease called Hinamizawa syndrome, and that the Irie Clinic was established to study it. Then he told us about his unique role, and everything about the underlying conspiracy. Ooshi-san seemed completely blown away by these stories, but Akasaka-san listened calmly and quietly until the end, just as he was asked to. Since Akasaka-san worked for a special department in the police, he didn't seem surprised by the coach's story. He simply nodded in a way that conveyed, "I see, so that's how it is," and showed a deep level of understanding. It was encouraging for the rest of us. But at any rate, I was surprised to hear that a plan like that was going on in this rural village. I can definitely see why Rika-chan was hesitant to tell us about it.
でも、この話が本当なら、私が調べていたものについての疑問が理解できます。大石さん、これらの話は全てあり得る話だと思いますよ。
私は何かの小説の筋書きみたいな気分ですが。
A visual novel, perhaps?
いや、それが事実ならば。
It was a completely outrageous story. Even though I declared that I'd believe anything Rika-chan told me, I was so surprised I couldn't even speak. Akasaka-san seemed to be in a similar position, and Ooshi-san was apparently so shocked that he had to go over to the window to smoke several times, just to calm himself down.
僕は高野が怪しいと思っていました。ですが、その証拠はありません。それを確かめるために富武に調査をお願いしていたところだったのです。
そして彼は行方不明。疑わない方が不思議ってやつですね。
それで入江、僕はそのhinamizawa症候群において女王感染者というものなのですね。
はい。リカさんの寄生体だけは村中の誰とも違う特別なものです。
そしてその僕が死ぬとどうなりますですか？
以前お話ししたかもしれませんが、いえ、正確にはとても大変なことになると思われますが正しいですね。何しろリカさんが死ぬまで検証不能なのですから。
It was an interference derived from multiple example cases that closely resembled Hinamizawa syndrome, where the death of a person specified as the queen carrier triggered mass suicides and riots.
この辺は高野さんの専門だったのですが、今となっては。
高野は死んでいないのです。だからこそ知っている限りで構わないから説明してください。
一体どういうことなんです？さっき高野さんの死体が発見されたと言ったばかりじゃないですか。
公式発表としてはという、おそらく本人か、あるいは仲間によって偽装された可能性が高い。いや、確実でしょう。
偽装？なぜ？
ついさっき聞いたばかりで言い忘れてたんですけどね。高野美代は綿流しの祭りの今晩、屋台で目撃されています。でもお隣の県警さんの鑑識の結果だと、死後24時間以上が経過しているとのことです。赤坂さんに注意されてましたから、重々に念押ししたおかげで正確な時間が伝わりましたよ。
Attaboy, Akasaka.
そのあたりは見ない警部のおかげですよ。
And Minai!
彼女のおかげで鑑識の一人の現地を取ることができたのですから。
ねえ、こっちから目撃情報を先に提供していたら、やっこさんたちは絶対に時間を調整して報告してきたでしょうな。
それってまさか。
The coach looked deeply surprised, but he had lost the will to doubt any of this. He had a weak expression on his face as he continued.
いずれにせよ、女王感染者と呼ばれる人が発病することはこの村の死を意味します。いや、それだけじゃない。理性もなく異常行動を繰り返す人間が村外に繰り出すことを考えただけでも恐ろしいことになるでしょう。それだけは何としても防がなくてはいけないと我々が存在しているんです。
なら話の腰を折らずに聞いて答えてくださいです。みんなも黙って聞いていてください。そんな僕を殺して誰かが何かを得するということはありますですか？
リカさんを殺す？誰が？
入江、話の腰を折らずに答える約束です。
I was just about to say, come on, Doc.
すみません。いえ、考えられません。あなたを殺して得をする人間など存在するわけがない。
Really, Doc? You can't think of anybody at all?
繰り返しになりますが、もし女王感染者に万一があれば、一般感染者は全員48時間以内に末期症状に至るんです。それこそがひなみざわ症候群の最も危険な一面と言えるでしょう。被害妄想の拡大や錯乱などの個人症状とは比べ物にならない規模の大事態です。
その大事態を起こして誰かが得をするということは
絶対にありえません。リカさんを殺すということは村人 2,3 人を殺すのと全く同じことです。たとえ冗談でも絶対に考えられないことです。
The coach stubbornly continued insisting on that point. And yet, Takano-san is considering this plan. So why would she want to kill Rika-chan? Still, no conspiracy is without personal gain. Even if you can't understand it at first glance, that's just an oversight on your part, right? Or you're just being faked out and misled. Don't give up. Think. See through our enemy's true intentions. Behind me, Keiichi was twisting his brain over and over, trying to unravel the true nature of this conspiracy. You shouldn't twist your brain, Keiichi. That's not good for you. He's desperately searching for it, but it's not that simple. It couldn't be, right? Still, we managed to completely avoid the major hurdle of doubting me. And for that, I'm glad. At any rate, the problem is Takano.
僕が死ねばひなみざわの人たち全員が被害妄想に取りつかれて錯乱し、あるいは殺し合う。 鬼の血を引く末裔たちの村の終焉としてはこれ以上ないフィナーレなのです。
In the end, does Takano simply want to enact a curse to sate her own wicked desires? Takano always talks about unsettling things. Everyone knows that she has cruel hobbies. Takano is aware of the dark history of Onikafuchi village. Maybe she's trying to kill me and drive the villagers to terminal symptoms because she wants to see the brutal man-eating demons with her own eyes. It's not completely out of the question.
もちろんそれが想定される最悪の事態です。ですので、もしも万一リカさんが死ぬようなことがあった場合、ある緊急措置が取られることになっています。
緊急措置？
Yep.
初耳なのですよ。
多分初めてお話しすると思います。物騒な話でしたので私も話したくなかった。入江機関にとってhinamizawa症候群治療の中での最優先事項は女王感染者の保護です。ですが万一女王感染者が死亡し感染者全員の急性発症が見込まれた場合、それを未然に防ぐ緊急措置が取られることになっています。
That sounded reasonable. If all 2,000 villagers developed paranoia, there's no guarantee that the damage would remain localized within the village. And if that scenario can be foreseen, then it's natural to prepare countermeasures in advance.
非常時用の緊急マニュアルというものが存在しまして、その中で最も危険度の高い事態、つまりリカさんが死んだ場合に適用されるものが緊急マニュアル第34号というものです。
それが適用されると何か起こるのですか？
具体的には自衛隊の緊急時専門の部隊がhinamizawaを封鎖して。
Irie bit at his lip, like he couldn't put into words what came next. In other words, they need to take action before the villagers are lost to confusion and destroy all traces of the truth. I only wish I were joking.
それも初耳なのです。
すみませんでした。私もあまり好きな話ではなかったもので。
Up until now, I was deeply interested in the events leading up to my death, but I never showed any interest in what happened afterwards. The world could go to hell for all I cared. But that means this happened every time I died. Or rather, that it was made to happen. A foe powerful enough to wipe an entire village off the map would have no trouble at all getting rid of a measly little girl like me. Can we really stand up to an enemy like that? And thanks to this manual, everything I theorized about Takano's motive was completely crushed. In their madness, the villagers would turn into demons and slaughter one another in a literal hellscape. I could understand if her motive was that she wanted to bear witness to that, but according to Irie, that would never happen. Because before that could transpire, an emergency manual would be enacted to secretly bury this tragedy in the dark. I'm not Takano, so I can't be completely certain, but I don't think that's the sort of thing she would find interesting. Considering our long-standing relationship, it seemed impossible to think that her goal was for killing me.
高野と山犬が僕を殺すというのはあり得ることですか？
バカな。絶対にありえないことです。いや、それどころか高野さんはリカさんの保護に一番気を使っていますし、山犬の最大の任務の一つはあなたの護衛です。
Yeah, well, unfortunately, dear doctor, this is a situation where we have the wolf guarding the hen house.
そんなことは絶対にありえない。
入江、それでもなお高野が僕を殺すとしたらどんな動機が考えられますですか？
考えられません。女王感染者の危険性について一番知っているのが彼女なんですから。 それにご存知でしょ、彼女はひなみざわ症候群の研究に並外れた情熱を注いでいます。あなたを殺してしまうことはその情熱と矛盾する行為です。
Irie continued to deny it and defend Takano. That's because he's seen Takano's passion research up close and believes in it. Or rather, he wants to believe in it.
でも入江、前に一度ひなみざわ症候群は確か3年以内で撲滅する計画になっていると。撲滅というのは症候群を滅ぼしてしまうこと。研究を続けたい彼女の情熱にとってそれはどうなのでしょう。
それは私にとってひなみざわ症候群は治療すべき対象ですが、高野さんにとっては研究素材なんです。実際彼女は3カ年計画には強く反対していて、研究の無期延長について理事会に進言するため単身上京したとまで聞いています。もっともそれは失敗に終わったそうですが。
つまり高野はもっと研究を続けたいのに、ひなみざわ症候群は3年以内に撲滅されてしまい、高野は研究対象を失ってしまうということなのですか。
そういう言い方もできるかもしれません。
Right there. I feel like I got a small glimpse of something there. The Irie Institute is not a small organization. It requires a large budget and a large number of people to operate. Without that, it's impossible to study Hinamizawa syndrome. Which means if they declare that the Irie Institute's research must end in 3 years, Takano must be deeply distraught that she won't be able to continue her research.
どうせ終わらせられてしまう研究なら、最後に盛大にひっくり返してやりたい。
バカな。そんなことあってはならないことです。
でも入江も高野の性分は知っているはずなのです。あいつならやりかねない、あいつなら僕を殺しかねないという可能性は本当にありませんですか。
ありえない。ありえません。そんな恐ろしいことは絶対に。
It seems like I caught the tail end of Takano's motive, but I felt there was more to it, because the research will continue for 3 more years. In the meantime, Takano could work to get her research recognized and extended, and at the very least she could continue carrying on her research for those 3 years. If she still has another 3 years, I can't understand why she's so desperate to take action right now, in 1983. Well, that's because her benefactors need her to. And what's more, I have to die specifically in June of 1983. Even if there was some wiggle room on the exact date, the month hardly ever changes. And that's proof of a very strong will. Maybe if the research was cut off immediately. But that's a weak motivation if there are still 3 years left. There must be a strong will driving her to take action specifically in June of 1983.
どう思いますですか、ケイイチ。どうしてこの時期に高野は実行しようと考えたのでしょうか。
あ、そうか。
Suddenly, Keiichi clapped his hands together, and he seemed to have a flash of something, because the grin on his face suggested he had put everything together.
関係ない話だけどさ、リカちゃん、以前言ってたよな。昭和58年の6月、決まった時、自分は死ぬ。だから、どんなことも楽しめないって。それと同じ理由ってことは考えられないか？
だから、どういうことですか？
Where are you going with this? It was frustrating. The Keiichi of this world was rather smart, but he had a pompous way of speaking.
3日後に死ぬ。3年後に死ぬ。期間で言えば大違いだけど、どちらも死ぬというゴールが決められている。 しかも自分じゃない誰かの意思によってな。それって結局聞いた本人にとって衝撃は同じようなもんじゃないのか？
なるほど。患者が衝撃を受けるのは病気で死に直面した時よりもそれを告げられた時だと何かの本で読んだことがあります。それに死刑囚が最も取り乱すのは刑が確定した時。そう考えると納得できない話ではありません。
Right. That's right. That was a blind spot. If I just put myself in her position, it's simple and so easy to understand. When I thought about how I was doomed to die in 1983, I was completely lost to despair. Fortunately, I had Hanyu. And nowadays, I have Keiichi and the others. But if I had to face that knowledge alone, I wouldn't even be able to pretend to spend my days calmly. So, Takano is feeling the same way? Well, when you put it like that, yeah, she is.
そんな、お二人ともこじつけが過ぎます。高野さんはそんなに短慮な人ではありませんよ。だいたいそんなバカな計画を実行してどんな得が？爆弾を自宅で爆発させるようなものじゃありませんか。
権力闘争。
When Ooshi suddenly muttered that, we all turned around in response, and he laughed to hide his embarrassment.
ああ、いやね。
You know something, detective?
東京って組織がどんなところか知りませんけど、もし勢力が二分されてて反対派ってのがいたらの話ですよ。その連中はこのプロジェクトが失敗すればきっと喜ぶんだろうなと思いましてね。ひょっとして爆弾を仕掛けてきたのってhinamizawaとか入江先生たちの研究を快く思わない連中じゃないんですか。
そんな人は組織には？
You got good intuition, detective. That's exactly what this is. Irie tried to deny it, but on the other hand, he seemed to consider something and shut his mouth to think it over. In fact, their reasoning for deciding to shut down the research project within 3 years was likely because some force within the organization was opposed to or displeased with the project.
結構近いですよ、それ。まあ、現実はもっと露骨で醜悪ですけどね。
Perhaps seeing that Irie's answers were a dead end, Akasaka finally ceased silently listening to the conversation and stepped in front of me so he could stand before Irie.
入江機関のクライアントのアルファベット、これわかりますよね。つい最近まで私の第7室は巨額の裏金ルートとそれを牛耳る黒幕たちを内定していました。アルファベットプロジェクトとはその裏金ルートのうちの一つです。
Government funds are provided to finance certain projects, but the reality of the situation that's being done to fatten the wallets of a few specific people. These people insist that they can revitalize Japan with these secret off-the-books projects, but they're deceiving even themselves. The mastermind controlling the project must have had huge financial investment in it. And uncovering that could shift the very center of Japanese politics. So Akasaka's organization was receiving strong pressure to halt their investigation.
ただ、最初にお断りしておきますが、第7室のこの調査はすでに中断され、私ですので、私は業務上知り得たことを勝手に口外しているに過ぎません。もちろん、私はhinamizawaへは名目上休暇として訪れています。そこだけ誤解がないようにお願いいたします。
Irie remained silent and didn't relax his sullen expression. It seems like now that we knew the name of the Alphabet Project, he had no choice but to prepare himself for the worst.
その裏金ルートから毎年巨額の裏金が 入江機関という下根市内にある研究機関に流れ込んでいることがすでに分かっています。そして入江機関という機関名には括弧書きで入江診療所との補記までされています。そして入江機関トップは自衛隊から出向している二等陸佐入江京介氏とも。
違います。私は自衛隊なんかではありません。もうお話ししますが、私たちのクライアントはともかく、私たちは別にやましいことをしているつもりはないんです。これだけは本当なんです。信じてください。
入江の言う通りなのです。入江は騙してまでお金を受け取ったりはしないのですよ。
分かっています。で、これが入江機関名義の裏金の流れ着き先。探すのは結構骨が折れましたが、この名前に見覚えがありませんか？
これは高野さんが接触したアルファベットプロジェクト継続派の東京の幹部たち。
予想通りですね。アルファベットプロジェクトの再編は不採算部門のリストラと方向性の見直しなんかじゃない。より狡猾に、そして効率よく上層部の特定人物へ金が流れるように何のことはない。継続派も反対派も発想は同じなんですよ。さらに付け加えると、あなたの開発した治療薬のノウハウは外資系企業に高値で横流しされていたようですね。もっともそのあたりの詳細は東京地検の特捜部が調査中とのことですが。
そんなバカな。
おそらく富武二郎はこれを、そして高野美代がどちらかに深く関わっていることを知り、彼女を説得しようとして逆に消された。
まだ死んだと決まったわけではないのです。
When Akasaka heard me mutter that, he lowered his head to apologize for speculating too far. Then, he pulled a notebook from his breast pocket and turned toward Irie, who was looking defeated.
ただでさえプロジェクト停止で落ち込んでいた高野美代はどう思うか。そして、継続派を組織から排除し、自分たちが後釜につこうと考えている奴らが、彼女、それはご想像にお任せします。ただ、認めたくない現実から目をそらし続けても、時間は確実に進んでいく。そのことだけは決して忘れないでください。それに、
Akasaka gave me a gentle pat on the head as he continued.
私はリカちゃんを信頼して彼女に手を貸そうと思った。ここにいる前原くんもね。そのリカちゃんと前原くんがあなたを助けたいと思って必死になっている。あなたがそれを軽んじるような人でないことを。
ええ、分かっています。それだけはよく。
Irie had finally thought it over and was able to mutter just that. He may have been too shocked to speak at first, but considering the way Takano and the others were acting, they weren't who they were pretending to be.
それから、大石さ
ん。はい？何でしょうか？
これからの話は、警察の手に余るどころか、とんでもない領域に入ろうとしています。それに、どうも関わる山が大きすぎる気がします。大石さん、冷たい言い方をしますが、あなたはここで引かれた方がいいかもしれません。
赤坂さん、それはどういう意味ですか？
Akasaka. His father figure, the dam manager, was killed because of this conspiracy. You really think he's going to back down after learning all of this? Do you not know this man?
先ほども言われました通り、大石さんは今年で定年じゃないですか。長かった危険なお仕事がようやく終わり、そのねぎらいとして退職金を得られる直前にいる。お金は大事です。家のローンの完済や 老後の蓄え、そして第二の人生の支度金ですが、今回の山は危険すぎる。私の勘から言って、この山は多分最後にはなかったことにされる。つまり
全てを失う覚悟がなきゃ、今からでも遅くないから引き返せって、そうおっしゃるんでしょう。
そうです。大石さんほどの方にこんなことを言うのは。ですが、私は今日まで一般警察とは次元の違う山にいくつも関わってきました。だからその経験の上で大石さんにご忠告させていただいてるんです。
Ooshi was no fool. He was also an adult, and smart in a real sense. If he only listened to his pride, he would yell at Akasaka for insulting him. But what Akasaka is saying is true. Ooshi's pension is a big deal for him. People live far beyond their retirement. They still have 10 or even 20 years left after that. Their pension is the basis for that second life. A pension isn't ordinary money. It's very, very valuable. People receive their pension for working hard on rainy days and windy days, and even enduring the moments when their bosses gave them a hard time. Even Ooshi had mumbled on occasion that he was going to quit and look for a new job. Yet he endured, and quietly did the unreasonable work asked of him. He has endured far more work than his salary merited. He's worked like that for a very long time, and now he's finally about to retire. He's finally about to collect his long-awaited pension. It's not about the amount of money itself. It's about having a value placed on what you've done with your life. So if one were to cause a scandal, the punishment for that would be placed on his pension. One such deplorable event can erase Ooshi's entire life as a policeman. That's not something that can be treated lightly. Akasaka is still young. Even if he loses his job, he will be able to find a new one. But Ooshi is too old. The repayment of his mortgage was planned around his pension. Ooshi is a grown-up's grown-up, and that's why he can't do anything reckless. Akasaka knows that, and that's why he said that Ooshi should back down. Ooshi understands it too. So, Akasaka had to ask him that tough question, in order to find out how strong Ooshi's commitment was.
私がお小遣いを残したいばかりに、ずいぶんのんびりしたローン返済をしちゃいましてね。もっと繰り上げ償還とかしてりゃ、利子の分得をできただろうに。博打やらお酒やら、そんなものに使うお金が残したくてね。もし私がツケを退職金に回すような人生を選ばず、ここで私はかっこよく懲戒なんか怖くないって意気込むところなんでしょ
う。Ooshi's fists were trembling as how he shed his tears.
でもね、それでもね、私は刑事なんですよ。いや、そんなのはもうどうでもいいのかもしれない。私は墓前で誓ったんですよ。おやっさんを殺した犯人を必ず挙げてやるって。それつまり、おやっさんを殺した犯人を挙げるまで、私はいつまでも刑事でいるって誓いなんです。それつまり、私が警官かどうかってことじゃない。私が仇を取るその日まで、たとえ懲戒を食らったって刑事魂を忘れないっていうことなんです。その私が懲戒免職が怖いって、退職金が不意になるかもしれないのが怖いって。ああ、怖いですよ。何千万って金が入ることを当てにした人生設計が全部パーになるんですよ。北海道でのんびり家庭菜園を楽しんで、すすきので遊んで社交ダンスを始めて、それがパーになるの何が怖いってんですかね。私の刑事魂はそんなもんだったんですかね。 南沢村連続開始事件の真相を暴く。夢にまで願った真相の扉が今ここにあるってのに。くそー、ちくしょー。警察手帳を叩きつけりゃいい。警察なんていつでもやめてやるってなんで言えないんだ。くそーくそー、ちくしょー。
God, I could feel every ounce of his pain. I would not want to be in his position right now. Nobody could say anything in response to Ooshi. He's at a crossroads. The crossroads of a person who has worked so hard and so humbly for so long. How could the young people who know nothing about what he's had to go through say anything at all?
大石さんは確か殺された現場監督さんのご友人でいらっしゃいましたね。
ねえ、友人であり兄貴であり親父でした。
私は形式だけとはいえ入江機関の長です。多分リカさんをめぐる陰謀が暴かれれば必ず私にも飛び火し、何らかの形で責任を取らされる日が来るでしょう。
His position exists for exactly that purpose. To the Institute as a whole, Irie is there simply to cover for Takano's research. Even Irie has started to realize it. Even if Irie hadn't done anything wrong, he would have to take the blame as the person in charge of the Institute. That's how every organization purged itself, by forcing someone to take the blame and reshuffling members. That's why leaders get more money.
すべてが終わったら、大石さんに南沢村連続開始事件のすべてをお話しします。本当は終身の秘匿義務があるんですが、もういいでしょ
う。いやいや、そういうわけにはいきません。とだ、皆さんに協力した勇気ある大石クラウドに教えてやってください。退職金が欲しくて保身に走るみっともない大石クラウドには過ぎたもんです。
He faced a dilemma. Even though the truth behind the mysterious deaths he fought so hard was right in front of him, he couldn't just accept it if his head held high. To understand what he's going through, one would have to live the life he did. His dilemma is very vast and very heavy. Young people couldn't possibly understand.
考える時間をもらうことはできませんかね。真相を暴き、悪を打ちたい気持ちはあるんです。そのために勇気を持つ時間をもう少しだけもらうことはできませんかね。
Why is he even asking? Nobody here will force him to make up his mind. Of course I won't either. However, Ooshi needs someone's approval. He got mine. Ooshi is still passionate about his work as a police officer, yet he isn't brave enough to take on this case. He wants somebody to forgive him for that. But nobody can do that. And nobody can stop Ooshi from crying.
大石、あなたのことを僕が許してあげるのです。
Ooshi turned this way, looking completely bewildered. However, I continued without hesitation.
あなたが決心するのに必要な時間を僕は許します。あなたは今日まで自分に素直であり、そして厳しくもありながら今日までの人生を積み重ねてきました。そんな決して軽くない人生だからこそ、決断を求められる時にもその選択肢は重みを得るのです。軽々しい選択や蛮勇は決して誇らしいものではない。真に誇るべきなのは、あなたのような真に重い人生を歩んできた者が本当に重い選択をした時なのです。
It may seem arrogant of me to say, But right now, I think that is exactly what Ooshi needed to hear. Right. Who among us has the right to admonish Ooshi, the eldest one here? Well, technically you are, actually. No one. No one should be able to. Then, isn't it arrogant of someone in my position to talk to him like this?
あなたが冷静で落ち着きある選択をしようとも。僕はあなたを称えましょう。それがあなたの悩み抜いた選択である限り。
ありがとう。なぜか一番嬉しかった言葉です。臆病な私に時間を許してくれてありがとう。
Will Ooshi still be my ally? Will he help me? Maybe I should have said something else. But that wouldn't have reached his heart. Wanting help is my selfish request. Any words that disregard the life he lived wouldn't reach him. I've seen all the long, hard, and painful but fun days in Ushi's life since I was born. So, I understand. Even if you've been pursuing something for many years, it takes a lot of courage to give up something precious to reach it. That's right. I never would have been able to reach this point if I didn't have Keiichi and Akasaka standing beside me, encouraging me.
Irie先生、たった一つだけでいいんです。教えてください。
ええ、何でも聞いてください。
私はおやっさんをバラバラにして殺した連中を裏で糸を引いていたのは園崎家だと信じて追ってきました。それは正解ですかね？
いいえ、不正解です。hinamizawa村連続開始事件は全ては私たち側から説明できることです。
そうですか。
Gonna go bury the hatchet of the Sonozakis, Ooshi? Ooshi pretended to scratch his head. For so long he pursued the case with that belief. Yet someone deeply involved was telling him he'd missed the mark. So he must be feeling at least some frustration. Well, why wouldn't he? What Irie said wouldn't be enough. So I have to continue.
大石、お社のたたりと呼ばれる事件は園崎家も御三家もそして村人も一切が関係ないのです。
There were only misunderstandings, misinterpretations, coincidences, tragedies, and comedies. The real identity of the curse of Oyashiro-sama is simply a series of misinterpretations. It only looks like the villagers are acting in secret.
それじゃあ私が今日まで集めてきた全部ガセだったってそういうことですかね？
園崎家当主にはいかなる天才もすべて自らの差し金であるように振る舞うべしという秘密の家訓がありますです。園崎家は何も知らない。いや、それどころか毎年起こる事件に怯えてすらいる。でもそれを家の威厳に組み込むため黒幕を装っているだけなのです。
そんな家訓があるんですか？なるほど、納得です。
それが本当なら横領のばあさんめくっそ思わせぶりなことばっかり言いやがるな。
Yeah, she's real good at that. Misleading people.
それ本当なんですよね？
本当なのですよ。 古出家当主の秘密巻物にも書いてありますです。見ますですか？
I can scarcely imagine what he must be feeling right now. I have no idea what Ooshi thinks is so funny. Nobody here can tell what's going through Ushi's mind. Apparently it's not just me. However,
大石が嬉しい気持ち、僕にはわかりますです。
おや、何がわかるって言うんですか？
僕も初めの頃、園崎家を疑っていました。でも、それが間違いと分かったとき、とてもほっとして嬉しかったのです。憎む人がいなくなるというのは、とてもとても幸せで、気持ちいいことだってわかります。
まさかまさか、園崎家が獅子骨市内を牛耳るたちの悪い暴力団組織であることに変わりはありません。連中のとこのチンピラに刺されたこともありますからね。別に開始事件の黒幕でないと分かったからといって私にとって敵対的な存在であることが変わるわけではありません。まあそれだけのことなんですがなぜか愉快になっちゃいましてね。
we don't know if this is right or not. Ooshi believed the Sonozaki family was behind it all. Now that he's learned that they're not, I'm sure he feels like everything he stands for has been made meaningless. But it's painful to keep on hating people. I search for something in Ushi's self-deprecating laugh and try to imagine it. Ooshi left with a cigarette in his mouth, saying that he wanted to cool off a little.
そろそろ時間もない。
Poor guy.
今後どうするか、それだけを考えよ
う。はっきりしているのは高野の意図だけです。おそらく僕を拘束して綿流しのたたりの生贄とするつもりなのです。時期はわかりませんが、もう間もなくそれを実行に移してくるはずでしょう。それを逃れるためには。
分かってる。リカちゃんを守ることが俺たちの果たすべき最低の義務。どんな手を使ってでも攻撃させるわけにはいかない。相手の動きがはっきりとするまで下手に出歩かず、一番安全なところに避難すべきだろ
う。そんな好条件の場所はあるでしょうか？
Sure there is. Just ask Mion.
リカちゃん、そろそろミオンたちに打ち明ける時が来たんじゃないか。身を隠すためにはみんなの力がきっと役に立つと思うぞ。
Even before Keiichi spoke up, I was thinking the same thing. But even so, I still couldn't wipe away my unease. Things are going well so far, but about damn time we're actually considering telling everybody else.
みんな信じてくれますでしょうか？
実際に今晩犠牲者と行方不明になっている人がいる。こうなればさすがに事態の危険性を理解してもらえるだろう。それにみんなリカちゃんの予知のおかげで最悪の未来を回避することができたんだ。きっと今度はリカちゃんの力になってもらえるさ。
Keiichi's words gave me the resolve to make up my mind.
わかりましたのです。それに園崎本家の地下西宮殿は立てこもるにはとても理想的な場所だったはずなのです。
Keiichi gave me a firm nod as soon as he heard that. It might be difficult to manage on my own, but I've got Keiichi following me. Thinking that made me feel a bit more comfortable.
ところで、さとこちゃんはどうしますか？
Oh yeah, that's right. As he said that, Irie turned towards Sako sleeping on the bed behind him. If I were to disappear and leave Sako behind, naturally they'd target her in order to find out about my whereabouts. It would be risky if we woke her up now, but we can't leave her here. After all, this clinic is practically the enemy's home base.
サトコを移動させなくてはいけないのです。イリエ、今サトコはどんな状況ですか？
それが
Irie seemed like he was carefully choosing his words since it was something hard to say, but he eventually arrived at something and gave me a vague answer.
いいとは言えないんですが、悪いとも言えない。
So she's in limbo, huh?
正直よくわからない状況なんです。
どういうこと？
脳波が入り乱れて時折複雑な動きをします。おそらく夢を見ているんでしょうが、その度に苦しんだり泣いたりうめいたりして。
それってまさか。
しかし不思議なことにその夢見が終わった後は決まって穏やかな寝顔になるんです。ただその感覚も徐々に周期が縮まっています。これが何を意味するのか全く想像ができない。
サトコ、
可能であればゴグラの医療施設に移したいと思っています。あそこなら私の子飼いのスタッフも多いので安心できると思うんですが。
山犬が高野の手の内にある以上、赤坂、何かいい方法はないでしょうか？
入江所長、聡子ちゃんの最低限の生命維持にはどれくらいの医療機材が必要となってくるのですか？
現時点では日常使用しているワクチンが最低限、そして脳波と脈拍を計測する機器があれば理想的です。ただ電源等も含めて蛍光および仮設置は一般家庭の部屋でも可能ですので、一時的に場所を移転するのであれば問題はないかと思います。
だとしたら決まりだ。サトコもミオンのその地下細工殿に搬送して二人でそこに立てこもったらいいんじゃないか？そうですよね、監督。
医師としてはあまり歓迎したくない事態ですが、状況が状況です。致し方ないでしょう。ただそうなれば同じ意味でサトシ君も運び出す必要があります。
Oh, you're bringing up Satoshi. Keiichi was stunned, with his eyes open wide. No, I guess Keiichi hasn't heard this story yet.
サトシってサトコの兄の王女サトシか？じゃあサトシってこの診療所にいたのか？
ええ、リカさん？
ごめんなさいなのです。まだ圭一たちにはサトシのことを話していなかったのですよ。
そうですか。
Irie was clutching at his head for accidentally letting that slip. But what has been said can't be taken back. Irie turned toward Keiichi, who was still looking bewildered, and continued his explanation.
今話した通り、この診療所には北条聡君がいます。訳あって周囲から隔離していましたが、彼もhinamizawa症候群の重度患者、そして被験者なんです。
Well, holy shit. There's a lot of events to have happened within a single night. And a lot of information to go over, too. No wonder Keiichi is so tired. Well, not only we got Irie involved now too, and not only that, we've basically also had Satoshi's whereabouts and his status revealed to us. Definitely was not expecting that to happen. I'm real curious to see how this whole arc is going to actually end, considering how everything's been playing out so far. As for Ooshi, I still suspect that he's going to hop on board with us and put a stop to this, to put a stop to the conspiracy, even if it destroys his whole pension. The biggest sacrifices that'll end up being if that ends up happening. But I can't really fault him for being hesitant either, because, I mean, well, as all the narration has thoroughly pointed out, this isn't exactly an easy decision for him to make. I think it's accurate to say I have a feeling I know how certain characters are going to react, what decisions they're going to make, what they're going to do. I guess I'm just curious about the particulars of how it's all going to play out, if that makes sense. Anyway, Keiichi, you need some coffee? A yawn snuck out as I let out a sigh. Not much time had passed, but after such a long night, I was feeling exhausted and wanted to sleep like a log as soon as possible. But that's not an option. Akasaka went back to Tokyo to investigate the relationship between this Tokyo organization and the people supporting Takano-san. And now we have our own major task of asking Mion and the others to cooperate with us on this.
Oi, Mion.
何ケイちゃん、なんか用？
いや、用っていうか、これからみんなで聡子のお見舞いに行かないか？
みんな？いや、いいけど、ケイちゃんはお疲れでしょ？今日は私たちが行っておくから、ケイちゃんは帰って休んだ方がいいんじゃない？
レナもそう思うな。別に毎日お見舞いしなくても聡子ちゃんは怒ったりしないよ。
I felt a connection behind what both of them were saying. I'm thankful for it, but that's not what's important right now. We really need to get going.
ああ、大丈夫だ。今日聡子が目を覚ましていたら後で言われそうだしな。
まあそう言うなら、それじゃ揃って昨日の報告会と行くか。お土産持参でね。
おう。楽
しそうだね。あ、私リアカーと一緒でもいいかな。ゴミ山でね、聡子ちゃんが前から欲しいって言ってたかいいもの見つけたんだ。
I'm sure Sadako will be very, very, very pleased for you to hand her some random garbage you found.
だからって診療所に持っていくのはな。それにそれ祭りのお土産じゃないでしょ。
でも一日でも早くそばに置いてあげたいんだもん。
What is the thing, anyway? Reina was shouting "Hau Hau" while dancing and spinning around. It was just like usual, so I decided to leave the warm feelings alone for the time being.
そういや、シオンはどうした？
昨日の晩はうち泊まるって言ってたんだけど、なんか朝起きたらいなくなってたんだよね。それにあ、いや、なんでもない。気のせいかもしれないしさ。
しーちゃんのことだからきっと診療所だよ。行けば会えると思うな。
そうだな。よし、それじゃあとりあえず出発。
The 3 p.m. chime of the clock on the wall in the clinic resonated throughout the office. All the staff pitched in to help out yesterday, so they were given time off this afternoon as a special courtesy. Plus, all the mountain dogs were busy investigating Tomitake's disappearance and Takano's death. The mountain dogs were always here, but not today. They must have received urgent orders from headquarters. Rika was resting in the exam room next door. When Keiichi and the others arrived, they were surprised to see her at this time of day. But thinking it over, her injuries still hadn't fully healed, and she had to be exhausted from her dance last night. It's not strange at all for her to be sleepy. In fact, despite how shaken up they were last night, he hadn't noticed. And thanks to that, nobody reported to Okinogi and the others that Rika was here.
それにしても
Honestly, he was uncertain. What should they do now? He was prepared for the announcement that his research would end in 3 years. But after speaking to Rika and the others last night, the entire project could be cancelled immediately depending on Takano's plans. And if that happens, then what will become of Satoshi and Sadako?
どうしてこんなことになってしまったんだろう
Because a bunch of corrupt, greedy fucks up top in the political hierarchy demanded so, dear doctor. He had been pouring his heart into Hinamizawa syndrome research since the inception of the Alphabet Project. He was working hard, and he was even willing to put his life on the line in order to eradicate the terrible symptoms of this endemic disease. But he couldn't understand why the higher-ups behind this pool of shady funding were setting a trap.
そうか
Mio Takano felt the same way. She took over her grandfather, Professor Takano's research, and became the leading advocate for the project. That's why she had such tremendous motivation and enthusiasm for the research. Even disregarding the disadvantages of gender and resolve, the head of this research team wasn't him. It was Takano herself. And as a result, he had an unfriendly attitude toward her when they first met. It felt strange at first, but after Tomitake explained it to him, he started thinking it was only natural. So he tried to respect her position as much as possible and began thinking it would be okay to stand in her shadow. And given that, it was easy to imagine how shocked she'd be to learn that fact. I originally decided to become a doctor because of my parents' illness, and I endeavored to research and treat incurable diseases. I always wanted to be able to eliminate at least one of them, but a day came while I was fully immersed in my research, where my thoughts faded with time and experience, like a student who had just finished an assignment. At first I saw Hinamizawa syndrome as a humanitarian topic, but it later became a mere object of research or curiosity. Honestly, I'd confessed it had some degree of merit. Seeing me work with that callous attitude must have seemed unforgivable for Takano. But it's not like that anymore. Or to be more precise, my attitude changed some time ago. Ever since I met the girl who was continuing to fight her illness, who was sleeping in this very clinic. The intercom chime coming from the direction of the entrance let me know that someone had entered the clinic. Normally, they'd head to the reception desk, but I was handling things directly at the moment since today was declared a holiday as of this afternoon. The fact that they came here despite the holiday meant it was probably Rika and the others coming to check on Sadako.
はいもしもし
あ、監督、シオンです。
Hello, Shion. When I grabbed the intercom and held it to my ear, sure enough, it was Shion.
先に来ちゃいました。入れてもらえませんか？
いいですよちょっと待っていてくださいね
When I opened the door, Shion was standing there with a stuffed animal.
おやそれは
It's a stuffed animal, Doc!
さとこへのプレゼントです。昨日、屋台パーラーの特別手当にもらったんですよ。
可愛らしいですねきっと起きたらさとこちゃんも喜びますよ
さとこはどうです？
大丈夫です薬が効いてよく眠っていますが心配ありませんよ
なら好都合ですね。
What the hell? I heard a sound like bursting gunpowder coming from behind, as the medicine rack in front of me shattered with a flashy sound. When I turned around in a panic, I found Shion coldly glaring this way. standing there holding a pistol that she must have been hiding inside a stuffed animal.
あなたに聞きたいことがあります。サトシ君はどこ？
I see someone must have informed her about Satoshi. Oh dear. New tips unlocked. Lost item. You know, I just saw something. Good news, Mion. Shion found her boy toy, so now you should be able to hook up with your boy toy without any issue now. Hooray! Okay, let's see what this new tip is. Lost item.
お疲れさん。みんな祭りの大仕事の翌日にすまんの。
Why aren't you advancing?
いやいや、これくらいはへえともないわい。ここはわしらの守り神様のお住まいじゃからの。ちゃんときれいに吐き清めていかんとバチ当たるってもんじゃ。それに昨日のリカちゃまの演舞を見ちょったら元気づけられての。いよいよこの神社もわしらの手で守っていかねばならんちゅう気になったわ。確かにそうじゃな。にしてもリカちゃま大丈夫かいの。なに、入江先生が一日休めば大丈夫って言ってくれたんじゃ。心配はいらん。お、任せたらんね。おや？これなんじゃねえ。どうした椎名のじいさま。なんか見つかったのかい？いやー、この祠の陰にこんなものが隠れておったわ。えらく思いかばんじゃが、何入っとるんじゃ。おや、こりゃ結構な代物じゃぞ。なくした人きっと困っとるんじゃないかの。
What did they find? Okay, that was odd. I have a sneaking suspicion that whatever this lost item they found is, it's probably going to be surprisingly important and very relevant to the next episode's events. So, yeah, it's undeniable now. Pretty much everybody is almost everybody. I mean, Mion and Reina have yet to be brought into the fold, but I mean, considering that Shion found out about Satoshi being in the clinic here, clearly she must have been brought up to speed about things, or found out some other way. So yeah, everybody's all coming together. Truth bombs and exposition is being dumped left, right, and center like it's going out of style. And everybody is getting really damn close to understanding the full scope of what the conspiracy is surrounding the whole village. And what Takano is trying to do. They almost have their enemy's entire motivation figured out. So now, as they're already doing, they gotta prepare for the fight that's coming their way. If it hasn't started already. Don't really have anything meaningful I can really say here other than, well, I'm just real curious, maybe a bit excited even, to see how things will continue to play out. Well then, I guess now is a good time as any to bring today's episode to a close. That being said, I hope those of you who have tuned in have enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. If you did and you'd like to see more content from me, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time for whatever crazy shit we're going to be in for next time. Take care.